Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
Hello, Chad Gill here. I'm the host of the Get the Intel podcast, where we talk with leaders in contracting management and anyone helping us do business better. So this episode is brought to you by Lamon & Coach. Lamon is a business coaching group with a focus on contractors in and around construction. We not only help with proposing solutions and methods, but implement them in your business as well. After all, good ideas are not useful until they're implemented. So joining me today is Karen Vilas. She is president of Fortress Protective Buildings, and she is in charge of bringing the modular precast building offering to the market. As a new product, Fortress provides next-generation technology for protective buildings. These are multi-hazard resistant buildings, or MRBs. Karen's career is focused on helping multinational petrochemical corporations identify hazards, manage risk, and keep people safe. So known for her unwavering commitment to innovation and customer satisfaction, she provides a unique risk mitigation and risk management solution by focusing on high quality, highly protective buildings in the high hazard environments. It's a lot of highs in that sentence.
Yeah. Thanks for that introduction and getting through all that.
I was like, wow, this is unusually difficult to read. I'm not sure why I was struggling there. That's that engineering major in me coming out, you know? Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Really glad to have you here, regardless of the whole South Carolina issue, which my daughter would have a problem with, but I'm good.
Hey, I'm okay with Clemson. It's been a few years, so
it's not a bad second-rate school.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you're a chemical engineer, and now you're in protective buildings, which I think really supposed to be civil engineers. Not sure, but structural, there's like everybody in there. How does that path work out?
It's been an interesting ride over about the last 16 years, Chad. So great question to ask. I've been working for the parent company of Fortress Protective Buildings, which is where I'm currently president, for about 16 years. So I started right out of college at the best University of South Carolina. And during that time, I worked as a process safety consultant. So the BakerRisk mission is really to help our clients manage hazards and risks. And associated with that is doing everything from accident investigations, so learning to understand what happens when something goes wrong, to the predictive side of that. So if there is an issue where a pipe breaks and ruptures, or something else goes wrong on a facility, what does that look like in terms of impacts to people and buildings? So with that experience of traveling all over the world and working with clients, I found that I had one main challenge over and over again, and that is there was no offering on the market for a building that was a modular, fast turnaround building to get into facilities that provided a wide range of protection from multiple hazards. So we combined with the structures arm of our group and designed Fortress Protective Buildings, and then went on a 2-year program of testing, so full-scale testing, everything from blast and fire to toxic protection and weather, to make sure it was as protective as we thought it was, and it proved to be more protective than we expected. And so now we're building those out in high hazard areas.
So they're precast in plants? Are you casting them on site, or how does the construction process go?
So we have we're partnered with Tyndall, and so they have fabrication shops around the U.S. We work directly with the one in their utilities group, infrastructure group in Greenville, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So we have a form there, and with this single form, we can cast multiple different module pieces to construct our building. So if you think about it like Lego blocks, we can put a wall here, a wall there, or leave it open. And these come together to make the buildings. So cast on site in Tyndall's facility, monolithically, shipped to site. And then it's done so that it's bolt connections only. So no welding, no hot work permits in these risky environments. And so that's kind of the process.
So what was the need? I mean, it was you're in a petrochemical plant and you're like, okay, we're predicting, let's say there was an accident of some kind and we need a place to like safe shelter. Is that kind of the idea behind them?
So that is one aspect, but it's more, so stepping back a minute, there's this golden rule in kind of the petrochemical oil and gas markets that if people aren't necessary to the operation or emergency response to the facility, they should be moved as far away as possible. So that's golden rule, bottom line. But there's a lot of people who need to be in close to the units because they need to have their eyes on the units. They're the operators that are the first line of response if something does go wrong, or they're the folks that are actually operating the equipment to make the products that we use in everyday life. And so these people are considered essential and need to be in near the unit. So the idea is if something goes wrong, they are already sitting in a building that's protective. If they're not already in that building, they can then go there to muster depending on the type of event that it is.
So, I mean, it's fire, it's explosion, it's, I guess, I don't know what else. I mean, is it ventilated and has its own air and those kind of things too?
So that's a great question. So it's explosion resistant up to above 8 psi. If you're in the petrochemical industry, you'll understand what that means, but it can take a very, very heavy blast load. For fire, we've tested it direct impinge jet fire for over an hour. But in addition to that, one of the very unique things that the Fortress building offers is it's extremely leak tight. So when you start talking about potential toxic gas ingress, there's no better building than Fortress when it's combined with the gas detection and control panels that our building offers. So basically, instead of having direct exposure to a toxic event, you then buy yourself hours of time to safely shut down the unit and figure out the best way to evacuate. And then moving back to concrete, those are the design specifications, but concrete and then the nature of reinforced concrete when we're talking about 8 inches of thickness, it's naturally weather resistant, it's naturally thermally resistant. So hot outside stays cool inside, cold outside stays warm inside. So just a bunch of benefits associated with the way it's designed and constructed.
Yeah, and hands down, the referral I'm going to want is I want to interview the guy who you said, hey, see if you can break it. And he's like, we need a jet engine and some fuel. This guy has a great job.
Yeah.
It is, great job.
So that's really interesting to bring up because our parent company, BakerRisk, I explained a little bit about them, but one of the main things that they do that's very unique from anyone else out there from the consulting standpoint is they've got 2 test facilities. So one's just outside San Antonio, it's about 180 acres, and then one's in West Texas, and it's about 2,000 acres. And between those 2 facilities, we can do everything from high explosive testing all the way down to shock tube testing on building components, jet fire testing. So a wide range of applicable testing is available through that parent company. So when I say we did 2 years of testing, we did 2 years of hard full-scale testing.
Oh man, that's fantastic. And you get to hang on Texas to do it. Yeah, it's just whoever that is, great job. Good kudos to them.
Yeah.
So no kidding. So you're a consultative company. I mean, when you're that big of a company and you're kind of creating a new division, a new product and stuff like that, is it different than when you talk about, small scale startups trying to launch new products? I mean, some of it's the same and some of it's bound to be different.
So it's actually the parent company is mostly consulting. So when you talk about the business model and consulting, you're selling the billable hour. Your people are your assets. Now we're talking about a company that's selling buildings, so it's a product. And so that dynamic was very different for the parent company, BakerRisk, which is why they chose to set it up as a wholly owned subsidiary. So as Fortress, we operate pretty much independently. So I moved over full-time about a year ago into this role as president. We have 5 employees. And through that company, we actually subcontract BakerRisk as the parent company. So we're now operating pretty independently. So it has been like a startup venture.
Do you find that it's a lot different how you manage a group that is a product based versus how you were managing a group that was service based?
It is completely different. Our business model is we offer these buildings turnkey. So we have a subcontractor structure that works under us through a general contractor. And then we have some critical life safety things that work directly under us. So there's a lot of moving pieces of people and organizations to manage. Whereas when you're in the consulting environment, you're managing yourself, your time, and your deliverables, not necessarily massive teams like we're looking at on producing a building.
Do you think it's easier or just different?
It's definitely not easier. It is different. And I will say every day there's some sort of challenge pops up. It's been a wild ride.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's probably very different than I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Your fire drills are completely different than they used to be.
Exactly.
But that is nice, and I think, being able to operate independently is a good place to be as well. What's like some of the biggest challenges you've come into?
Oh, you should see our lessons learned sheet. It is not short. So obviously, we've got the teething pains of being a new company. So coming up when we were doing our first couple of buildings, there's always lessons to be learned, which we then implement and carry into our next design. But honestly, the biggest challenge for us as an organization and the type of buildings that we're producing is industry knowledge. So it's taken a lot of education for us out in the market to get folks to understand why we've done what we've done. And what I mean there is, if you think back to going all the way back to, let's say, World War I and World War II, reinforced concrete was used for bunkers as protective structures. It's well known to provide the capability necessary to be hazard resistant and protective. But over time within the petrochemical industry, these buildings become harder because schedules are long, lead times are long. It's disruptive to site to have 3 to 5 or more year building projects in the facility. And so they've really turned to these modular buildings. So there's what's called a blast resistant module, VRM, which is made of steel, basically a beefed up shipping container. And most companies have been using these since about BP Texas City time. But these have some inherent issues associated with them due to the vulnerability of people inside the building. So while the building may do fine in an event, that doesn't mean the people or equipment inside is going to do fine, which has been proven through full-scale testing. But once folks are used to buying a type of building and it checks all the boxes, that switching mindset takes a lot of education as to why it's needed. So for folks that we've been working with since our inception, they're kind of up to speed and they understand, but each of those relationships takes a long time to build.
No, I can imagine. I mean, and then, I'm sure, trying to pour them and cast them and get them on site and then install them. And then the whole idea of, and there's a lot of inertia, I imagine, that you have to overcome with that, especially when the prevalence of shipping containers and the easy modifications of them and those kind of things.
Right. And so, I mean, those are obviously easy to get in, quick turnaround. And so what we've done with Fortress is we've taken that understanding of all the benefits of precast concrete, but made it a modular structure. So our timelines for, let's say, control room from signing a PO to done is less than a year. So we can get through the engineering, the fabrication on site, and fit out to hand keys in a year, which is much less than that 3 to 5 years that's traditional for these types of purpose-built structures.
So true modular, I mean, you're looking for what on site? Just a footing to set it on, or what?
So we recommend a slab. It makes it easier because it's easier to align, to bolt together. So it's just typically it's a 6 to 8 inch slab, depending on the type of ground that you have. And then sometimes, because we're working on the Gulf Coast, sometimes we do need piers, depending on if how stable your soil is, but it's relatively straightforward. The way the design is done is each module is poured monolithically. And so the roof, the floor slab, the walls, they're all cast together, 8-inch thick reinforced concrete. And when that building comes together, that floor acts as a natural foundation for the building. So nothing fancy is really required.
Wow. No, I think, yeah, speed of construction there, contained labor. That's because for us and in all of our trades, labor is our biggest expense.
Exactly.
So when you're on site, you got to travel, especially when you need specialty labor, that adds up quite quickly.
And labor's hard to find right now with a lot of infrastructure projects going on.
Labor seems to be hard to find with anything. Taking the trash out, getting homework done,
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little tricky, it seems. I think we all fight that. And somebody explained it to me, they said it's not a problem to be solved, it's a situation to be managed. So
exactly.
we're all looking for. Are you finding that there's different ways from, remote people and the more remote workforce and the different, the next generation workforce? Are you hitting challenges with that?
No, not necessarily the remote workforce, because a lot of on the design and engineering side, working remotely has been perfectly okay. We have a lot of collaborative meetings, all the way through pre-construction services and BIM modeling, and we'll get together if it's a major meeting or milestone. But then once we're in the field, we're in the field. And so it hasn't been too big of an issue for us.
Well, that works out good. And you guys are put them anywhere in the world right now, or are you strictly United States for now?
So, yes. No,
We will put them anywhere in the world, and
we're strictly in the United States. So again, Tyndall is our fabrication partner, and they're located here in the U.S. We are looking at some other geographical areas, but we have not taken that step yet. Actually, you can see it, and I've got a photo there of a new product of ours. It's actually a single module cast, 18 by 12 by about 11 feet tall. So monolithically cast with the floor slab separate, and then it just comes together as embeds. That's one that we're thinking can go overseas pretty easily. And so that'll probably be the first one we take to market beyond North America area.
That's great. Yeah, well, I really appreciate you joining me. It's interesting. I love finding these, I don't want to call it a niche market, but it's just a market that we don't know is out there, and you're like, hey, you see these buildings running up and down the road, and you think, well, what is it about? And so I really appreciate you kind of educating us on it and the challenges with it, and wish you luck. I know it's a challenge, and I know it's you guys are growing, so good. They're good challenges to have, I guess.
Right. There's always good challenges to have. And so I'll leave you with some final thoughts. And it's easy for me to fall back to talking about the petrochemical and oil and gas markets, because that's what I've been working in for 16 plus years. But what we're finding is for the protective buildings that we're doing, there's a huge market out there, from storm shelters in residential and commercial to data centers. So these remote data centers that are smaller and kind of not the mega data centers, but remote edge data centers. There's just a lot of different applications out there for protective buildings that hopefully your audience will be interested in.
No, I think that sounds great. I mean, Midwest and stuff like that. I know where they're doing a lot of these barn dominiums. A storm shelter is a great place for that. I came from the nuclear industry originally, and so there's lots of modular buildings around that. They're mostly looking there a steam explosion, but still, not where you want to be.
Not where you want to be, no.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time, and hopefully everybody knows a little bit more about MRBs.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, and thanks to your audience for listening.
Thanks, Karen.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.